Thank you for listening and welcome to the Life Radio Show, a once proud member of the now defunct Eventide Entertainment Podcast Network. I'm your host, Don Smith. The wonderfully prepared Adrian Miller is in as co-host. We get into some major Stooge talk with Jeff Dale. Jeff is writing the first ever book about Shemp Howard. If you enjoy the show, like and follow the Life 1069 on Facebook and Don Smith Comedy on Twitter. Or tune in live on Tuesdays from 7 to 9 p.m. on WWSU 106.9 FM. Or you can stream the show live at WWSU1069.org.
The brutal presence overwhelms me. The brutal presence overwhelms me.
All right. Hey, welcome back to the Life Radio Show. I'm your host, Don Smith. We have made it back. Jesse Nutt and Keith Irvin have cleared out of the building, so we're good to go. My guest co-host, Adrian Miller, is still in with us.
Hello.
And Patrick, our producer, Patrick, got his microphone back and finally gets a camera. I think this is the first time on my show that you have had a camera pointed towards you, Patrick.
I suggested pointing it towards the fan because then you could say that you have a fan on the show now.
Yeah, our fan club. That's what. All right.
The Life Radio Show fan club.
Life Radio Show fan club. We have a guest on the phone with us, Jeff Dale. Can you hear us?
Yes. Hello.
All right. Hey, turn him up,
Yeah,
Patrick.
you're really quiet. You're really quiet. Okay. Say something now.
We'll do the sound check on the air as well.
Yeah, that's the kind of professionalism you can expect from the Life Radio Show.
Absolutely.
106.9.
Jeff, welcome to the show. It's good to have you.
It's good to be on. It's
good
to be had, and that's even better.
Good to be had. So where are you from exactly?
Well, originally I was born in London, England.
Oh, okay.
And, moved to Canada when I was very young, which means I'm very old now, but I've been in Canada now for, a long time. And I've been a journalist up here and a writer for about 45 years. And now I'm a Stooge person. What can I say?
we all are a little bit on the inside, I think.
That's good to hear.
So you are actually writing a book, or have you written the book already, or are you still working?
Well, no, I'm still doing some odds and ends on the research, and I'm sort of I'm writing and researching at the same time. Essentially, what it is, it's the very first book ever written on the original member of the Stooges, which is neither Curly, Larry, or Moe. It's Shemp.
Right.
Most people who aren't Stooge fanatics like myself don't really know that. So I thought, well, this is a time to try to do something that no one else has ever done. And since I don't have a cure for any major diseases or how to, attain world peace, I thought, why not write a book on Shemp Howard instead? And that's what I'm doing.
Right. That's close. It's close to the.
It is.
If there's not been a book written about Shemp, I don't understand why that's been. Why that's been missed, because he was brilliant.
And that's just it. I could never figure it out either. One of the problems was that people like myself who grew up watching the Three Stooges, but at a certain age, let's just say around the late 60s to early 70s, we would have been raised on what were the Curly, Larry, Moe shorts that they released on television in 1958. So that's what they were used to, and a lot of people, when they saw Shemp, they thought, who's Shemp?
Right.
They didn't realize that he wasn't simply the one who replaced Curly because of Curly's ill health, but he was the one actually who formed, with Moe and then Larry, formed the nucleus of the Three Stooges. They weren't called that at the time, and they were formed by a very popular comedian by the name of Ted Healy.
Mm-hmm.
So the history is really quite interesting because that was back in 1923 when they started doing their routine together.
Wow.
And that lasted until, I guess, around 1934, thereabouts, when Shemp decided it was time to head out on his own, which he did. And he had a solo career, and that's what a lot of the book is going to be about. The fact that he had a very popular... He did very well. I mean, he wasn't what you call a leading man, but he was in a lot of films.
Right.
What brought you to become a Stooge head?
Uh,
We're going to keep finding new terms. One of them will stick.
That's a good question. I mean, I was already crazy when we moved from England, and the Stooges, they're known over there, but not really, I would say, as much as in North America, Canada, and the States. And I just latched onto it immediately. I just loved it. It was the sort of thing my parents would immediately turn the TV off, said, "Oh, you can't watch that. That's terrible." Which is quite remarkable when you think about how violent entertainment is today. My poor mom and dad would be absolutely aghast. They would think the Three Stooges were it's comedic. That's all it is. It's just silliness. It's not having anyone's head lopped off or blown up by a superhero or villain. So, it was a different world back then. And I just immediately gravitated into it. But I actually, once I'd seen Shemp on a couple of the Stooge shorts and in a couple of movies, I thought, I like him. He's different. He's a strange-looking fellow in a way. I mean, he looks a lot like Moe, actually.
Yeah. That's what's a little confusing, I feel like, as a kid. I was like, there are two Moes now?
Yeah.
I don't... Because you would watch them out of sequence. They would just show them on TV, and so you'd just be like, oh, Curly isn't in this one.
Right.
But there's another Moe.
Yeah. The two Moes.
Who's not like Moe.
Well, they were brothers. Those Curly, Moe, and Shemp were brothers.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was five brothers. Two of them became life insurance agents, which is it's funny in its own right.
Well,
I
Shemp
suppose.
tried to become a plumber, from what I read.
Yes.
He sort of was like, screw this guy, the Healy guy, and the horse he came on, and he's like, I guess show business isn't for me. I'll go be a plumber in Brooklyn. I'm going to be the most stereotypical thing ever.
Both of the brothers actually, that's Moe and Shemp. Shemp is the oldest of the three, by the way. Their parents would have rather they be a skilled tradesperson. So, plumbing, electrician, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And to put it sort of, I guess, politely, they really didn't do that well at those particular trades. They were much funnier, and
they would pull the gags that they did.
Right, yeah.
But they weren't funny. They were just work accident complaints. They were just lawsuits.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a funny era. I mean, like, a lot of people, and this is another thing, too, that I really wanted to sort of get across. I love all the comedians from back then, the Marx Brothers, Laurel and Hardy, the Rich Brothers, all that. But the funny thing is, and part of my book actually is going to look at this, I've talked to academics who do courses in entertainment, and some of them said, they'll say to their students, put up your hands, who knows the Marx Brothers, or Laurel and Hardy, or Abbott and Costello, and very, very few people do. And then when they say, how about the Three Stooges, all the hands go up. I mean, that's quite remarkable, seeing, since the Three Stooges were always critically panned and never, the act you shouldn't be watching because they weren't that good.
Right.
Well, in actual fact, they were that good, and people still remember them.
That's staying power right there, almost 100 years.
It is. Yeah, 1923, when they sort of, the formation of the group started, the nucleus, and we're at 2020 now, so we're 3 years away from the 100-year mark of the beginnings of the Three Stooges. It's quite remarkable.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what we were just talking about off the air, is in doing the research for this, that you really had to be, the heyday almost is actually after they had produced a lot of the shorts for the Three Stooges, which is partly what, as you pointed out, it kind of distorts our memory of it, is the 60s through sort of like the late 80s, early 90s. Because I know I watched the Three Stooges because in WGN in Chicago, they didn't have a lot as a local TV station, and they would just show it anytime they didn't have anything else running. They're like, let's put some Three Stooges on. But it's like if you're younger than me, though, I like my sister, who was born 1990, I don't think she's watched a single one. And I was a huge fan. I remember telling my uncle that, and he was like, really? You like the Three Stooges? He got really excited because apparently I found out, like this, like how ubiquitous it in America. Like my mom, their family, they would do bits from the shorts around the kitchen table. Like they would chase each other around and like do the bits and try to do like the poke in each other's eyes and like putting the hand up. Like
Right.
the dad, the parents, the kids, all of them doing like little things they were acting out from the shorts. And it was even my uncle. He was a chubby kid. He was a chubby kid with a buzz cut just down, and so they called him Curly. And then my grandfather, he had curly wild hair, which is kind of where I get it from. And so he was Larry. And then when my mom brought home my dad, he had a Beatles haircut.
So he was Mo.
And he was Mo, and he had long, dark, straight hair. And they're like, "Oh, we finally found our Mo." He was not amused. That marriage did not last.
That sounds like an awful lot of fun at dinner time at your house. So that would have been something else, But to get Shemp in there, I mean, if you look back at the very original material, you would have looked at him and said, "Oh my goodness, he's the original hippie." I mean, his hair wasn't like it wasn't a buzz cut, and it wasn't like a bowl cut like Mo's. It was long.
It was really long,
hanging over his ears, and it was so. Another reason, I guess, being an old hippie myself, I guess a bit of attraction to Shemp. And the other thing is too, and part of the concentration of this book of mine is on the fact that he actually handled a few dramatic roles, and I'm not talking Shakespeare or or T.S. Eliot or anything like that.
Well, he played like a heavy, right? There was one where he was like a blackmailer and like really dark kind of.
Yeah. Well, there's the one. It's
stuff.
called Convention Girl.
Yeah.
And he was a small-time hood, and he was an embezzler.
Yeah.
He was even sort of hatching a plan to murder somebody.
Yeah.
And then he appeared with John Wayne in a film, 1942. It's called Pittsburgh. He's been in all kinds of little dramatic roles, which is something the others, specifically Larry and Mo, really never got a chance to do. They were always within the Stooge mold. But Shemp got a chance to appear in all kinds of films, and some of them with a little bit of drama in them, and quite remarkable, actually. And I don't know if you know, but James Stewart, his very first role ever was in a Shemp short.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
In 1924. It's called Art Trouble.
Yeah.
And he got paid $50 for that. And by the way, $50 back then was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he didn't even get billed. And I think 5 or 6 years later, he's winning an Oscar. So there you go. I mean, he kept good company.
Yeah, he kind of got the short end of the stick. 'Cause I also read that he, when he kind of left the whole Healy stuff, but then he kept because he pissed him off for a variety of reasons. That he started doing the movies and things like that, and he actually worked with Abbott Costello.
Yeah, about half a dozen films. Yeah.
He was funnier because he was used to like the vaudeville. I mean, that's how he got pulled up on stage again, away from plumbing, was because he was so good at ad-libbing, and they just cut all of his stuff. Anything that didn't make them look bad, like made them kind of look like he was stealing the spotlight. Because he stole the spotlight in Joe Palooka, was it? They said he was not the main character, but after a while they were like, this guy is hilarious. Everybody loves him.
He was the manager, basically, Nellie Walsh. And the thing is, that the Joe Palooka series, which he didn't finish because he moved on to something else, it was obvious after the first one. I've got the whole series here, and I mean, you're saying to yourself, well, the boxer's supposed to be the main attraction.
Yeah.
And he's not doing a bad job. But the funny thing is, there's two things working in Shemp's favor. Number one, his favorite sport of all was boxing.
Yeah.
He used to go to the fights when he was a little kid, and, right through his whole life. And he knew everything about it. So all the attention throughout the first 3 or 4 episodes of that series, I mean, it sort of shifted towards Shemp. And he was brilliant. I mean, he just knew the patter. He used to do this little shtick. He'd do sort of a boxing stick, a little bit of a Muhammad Ali, long before his time.
Yeah.
And he used to show up at the fights in Los Angeles. He was the attraction sometimes. He'd get up from his seat and start dancing around, flailing his arms, and sometimes the boxers' attendants used to jump off the ringside and try to cool him down with a towel and give him some water. Like he sort of stole the show. So, like you said, I mean, it's amazing that really he didn't become even bigger than he was. So another reason why I wanted to write the book, I thought, let's see if people out there actually what they know about this, and do they want to know any more? And if they do, It's been fun. It's been a fun 3.5 years, and now I just have to get the thing written. So,
so 3.5 years of research.
The reason that actually took so long, I had to explain this to a lot of people. The biographical end is not the issue. You can get all that research in that, but I decided almost a year into writing this or researching, and I thought that's not going to attract anyone other than Stooge fans and Shemp fans and people who want to know more about it. I thought, I'm going to make this half biographical and half appreciation. So I set out from that day on to try to find entertainers, some in the past, obviously, who've gone, and some now who actually know Shemp, appreciate him, and what they've got to say about him. And that has taken so long. But it's been great. I found an amazing number of people out there, performers, comedians, actors. I got a hold of the TV talk show host Dick Cavett. I got some comments from him, and that's what has taken the time in this book. So that's what I hope people are going to see, that just because you died in 1955 and you were the lesser known of the Stooges, apparently. They often call him the forgotten Stooge.
Right.
That doesn't mean a thing. The people actually out there in the business say, you know something? I actually love this stuff. I like this stuff as much as the others. And I find that fascinating. Just amazing.
Yeah, some of my favorite shorts were the ones with him in them instead of the other ones. I don't.
The Bridaless Groom was one.
Yes.
Where he basically told Christina McNee, the young woman who thinks he's the cousin Basil who shows up. She started to smack him a bit, and he said, no, a little harder, and she just let loose. And she smacked them around, and this was not fake. And he went through the door, and that was him going through the door. And he sort of, he wasn't badly injured, but he was shaking his head, and she came over, and, are you hurt? Are you hurt? No, I said, great punch. No, you've got a great punch. So it's fascinating stuff. I've had a ball doing it, so. And I just hope people have a ball reading it, too.
Yeah, I hope so. It's I definitely have to check it out when it's out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and I've also managed to talk to the two granddaughters and also Shemp's daughter-in-law, who is married, of course, to Babe, or as her real name was Gertrude, but Babe was what she was known as. And they're great people. They're delighted. Finally someone's gonna, talk about Shemp. And I said, yeah, well, it's about time.
Absolutely.
Well, what would you say is his top contribution to, I guess, probably cinema and comedy?
That's hard to say, I think the interesting thing that I find about him is he did a lot of work on stage. That's where he got his ad-libbing skills from. And a lot of people back then did ad-lib, but he was known for that. Stooge shorts are not, they're pretty tightly directed and written. Yeah. So his ad-libbing was kind of limited to facial expressions. But in the other films, you could tell where he was ad-libbing. He was throwing in lines, and people were just, thinking, oh, where did that come from? And he's in one of the Thin Man movies, the series, and he's in another one too. One of the I forget the supposed Japanese detective, Mr. Moto. I can't remember the name. It's terrible, but obviously he's winging it, and all the other actors watching him are, not laughing but grinning from ear to ear.
Do you think he's one of the early people to do that at that point in time?
Yeah, you'd almost think that people like Bill Murray and other people who ad-lib a lot, the late Robin Williams. I would have loved to have known, well, what did you think of him? And because I think ad-libbing is quite brilliant, especially when it's really well done.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so his contributions, the fact is, at the height of the Depression, he walked away from what was turning into a successful trio, went on his own, did quite well, and then when his brother, Curly, younger brother, was hit with several strokes, he came in, so sort of almost like a familial sort of duty. He wasn't bitter or anything. Came in, stood in, and he did a really good job of standing in. And so he one of his contributions, I guess you could say, he almost saved the Three Stooges from sort of, not continuing. I think he did anyway. I think the fact that he was the one to replace Curly ensured that they would continue for quite some time.
Well, I mean, one of his lasting legacies that I was able to find was the term fake Shemp.
Oh, yes.
Fake Shemp.
Yeah, the last.
There's no fake Curly. There's only a fake Shemp.
Yeah, well, the last four of his shorts, the Columbia shorts with the Stooges, of course, he had died. Mm-hmm. And so that's what they did. They pieced together a lot of the material that was already out there, and they added an actor. And again, I should have been much more prepared to tell you his name. But anyway, he's an actor who appeared with Shemp on a number of earlier shorts, and basically they showed him mainly from the back, never like front on. And I think his name was Joe Palma, actually.
Yeah, I think it's Joe Palma.
Yeah, Joe Palma.
I remember being like, the director? And I'm like, no, that's different Palma.
Yeah, and basically, that term was coined by a director today.
Sam Raimi, I think, was the one who he calls the stand-ins. He calls them fake Shemps. Instead of calling him a stand-in, he's like, get the fake Shemp in here. Yeah, and it's become sort of a cultural, a bit sad in one respect because, of course, he had died, but also yet another element of his life that's recognizable. And I actually have in the book, and on both sides of the border, I have two music groups. One was the Shemps down in the States, and up in Canada, another one started a group called Shemp. And that's another two stories in themselves. So there's a lot of people out there who are fascinated, just fascinated. Now, I don't know if this is unusual, but like I remember as a kid when I first heard his name, and I realized it wasn't just Motu, that his name was Shemp, and I was like, shrimp?
Yeah.
It took me a long time to realize that his name is Shemp, not shrimp. But then I found out that the Shemp name is a mispronunciation. Well, was he born Shmuel or Samuel?
He was, the Jewish name would have been Shmuel, but the actual name they gave him on his birth certificate was Samuel.
Okay.
And that's the Jewish, name would have been Shmuel. Shmuel Horowitz.
Yeah.
And his mother, who is from Lithuania, from, Russian Jewish heritage, she couldn't pronounce the name Sam right, so every time she yelled out for him to come to dinner, it sounded like Shemp. And so that's it. Everyone picked up on the name Shemp, and he became Shemp. And, of course, once they were in the business, they dropped the Horowitz, and they were Howard. And same with Larry Fine. He was Louis Feinberg. And so there you go. Well, my grandfather's name was Blumenthal, and now I'm Dale. There you go. That's the Jewish name, and the derivation for that is Flowerdale. And I'm so glad that during the 60s, my grandfather did not change our last name to Flower.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
I would have been beaten up even more than I was. So, but anyway, so we all have links to Shemp somehow.
There you go.
I'm surprised he never did a shrimp endorsement.
Yeah,
Shrimps.
Well,
Shrimps.
If he would have lived longer, I would be. I wouldn't have been surprised at all at the things he could have done. I think he would have been good as a voiceover artist too. I think he could have done that. He could have done commercials. He could have popped up on one of the sitcoms back in those days, maybe the Lucille Ball show, I Love Lucy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just a little bit like Harpo Marx did. The world was open. I mean, he died on the way home from the boxing matches, and that was it. 60 years old.
The anecdote is he was sitting in the back with a friend, and he was lighting up a cigar and telling a joke, and then he fell over, and his friend thought it was a bit. Yeah. And started laughing, and then it was like, wait.
He's dead.
He's like, he's really going far for this bit.
Yeah. He's really seeing it through.
I mean, he's not even breathing. Yeah. I didn't know.
That guy's good.
That's how good he is. He's committed. Talk about committing to the bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like I say, it's a long book. I hope it's not going to be as long as I don't know, War and Peace or
Yeah.
Exodus or something like that. I'll try to keep it within reason.
So hey, if you made it War and Peace, it'd make a great doorstop. You could double your sales.
Absolutely,
You know, you
It-
could
it-
use this as a unlicensed weapon. You know, someone comes in, if it's heavy enough, you could drop it on head, which would be in Shem's honor. That would be the way he would want his book used.
That's perfect. I like that. Now all I have to do is to talk to some of the people I know in the business, not personally, and say, don't you think they should make a movie about Shem? You know, they've done the Stooges. Why not do just Shem?
I have yet to watch the remake of the Stooges because I don't think some things should be remade.
Yeah, I can't really picture a good job.
Well, the Farrelly Brothers film was more a fictionalized version.
Right.
It had its moments. It was interesting. I mean, it had Larry David playing Mother Superior, so that was quite funny. But you know, you can't redo the actual Three Stooges.
No.
Right.
You couldn't do it.
I mean, they couldn't even put Shemp back in because people were
No.
like,
No.
"But I like the man-child.
Yeah.
I don't want the boxer. I want the man-child.
Yeah.
I don't care how
Absolutely.
good his ad-libs are."
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
Well, we're going to have to take a little break at the half
Okay.
hour, and if you want to stick around with us when we come back, we're going to hit some crazy news stories and see what we can make out of them, which is usually a bunch of nonsense.
Okay. Well, I can stick around for
Work on our ad-libs.
I'll stick around for a couple of minutes after you're back then.
Okay, that'll work.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to play since everybody said they wanted metal. We'll play some Potter's Field. This Fell from Grace. Hit it, Patrick.
Way down.
Lesbian Nazi hookers abducted by UFOs and forced into weight loss programs. All this week.
All right. Hey, welcome back to the Life Radio Show. I'm your host, Don Smith. We are still going. Adrian Miller's still in as guest co-host. Patrick's
Hello.
still got a camera pointed toward him. He looks very shocked. No, he doesn't. He just doesn't. No facial expression at all from Patrick. He's just there. On the phone, we still have Jeff Dale with us.
Still freezing up here in Canada.
Still freezing in Canada. Awesome. And Adrian, did you want to talk because you had a little? You had posted about this on Facebook. Did you want to?
Yeah, some people commented. I said that this was happening today, and let's see. So, someone said Darren Cox said, "I always wondered if Shemp felt like he got the short straw." You know, I mean, you mentioned the Three Stooges, and people instantly think Moe, Larry, Curly, and then Shemp is the first to pop outside the big three. I also wonder how often anybody got hurt doing those stunts. And I enunciate. Stumps.
Yeah.
Doing those stumps, chopping wood.
They got hurt.
Yeah.
Not a lot. I mean, a lot of the gags were basically very, very carefully choreographed, but there were plenty of accidents, and they all got hurt. And it's not. Apparently, when Shemp was doing his shtick on his own in New York before he moved out to California, one of the young people who, young at the time, said that he used to notice he'd come back from work and he always had bruises all over him, because it was show business back then could be, not, I wouldn't say violent, but there was quite a bit of slapping and hitting and tumbling over various chairs and the like, and there were not as many stuntmen as you see these days. They did their own stuff. So, yeah, they did get hurt. And I don't know about Shemp feeling that he got the short end of it. I think family members, in a lot of respects, do think so. And I think they'd like to see his name more up there with the others. They don't want to diminish the names of the others like Curly, Larry, Moe. I mean, it's not a sort of a situation where you want to denigrate them, but you just think that Shemp did so much he maybe didn't get recognized enough for it.
Right.
But as for how he felt, I don't know. He was apparently quite a mild-mannered sort of gentleman, even though he was in a violent business.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I like boxing so much. It was a way to get his frustrations out. Who knows?
Yeah. I remember it saying that he had a lot of phobias.
Yeah, I think a lot of that, I think it's true, but I think also some of that is like it makes for good reading. Like they would have him being terrified of everything. But you think about, again, the business he was in, he certainly didn't shy away from getting a smack in the face or taking a tumble. Like apparently he didn't like to fly, didn't like to even take trains.
Yeah.
It was dogs that he was although I was told by some people that it wasn't all dogs. I mean, if it was a pet or something, he was fine. It was animals that he wasn't accustomed to, maybe a stray animal or something like that. So, and being someone like myself who's terrified of heights, I've got my own phobias. So maybe, again, that's why I like Shemp. I don't know. Maybe I can sort of empathize with his fears. I don't know.
Well, on that note, Holly Shock said, I love Curly, but I really loved Shemp. He was the lackey to Moe, but 99% of the time he stood up to Moe and didn't take his gruff, much like his solo career in movies playing tough guys.
That's true. And that is very true. I mean, even one of the directors, one of the White brothers who directed a lot of their stuff, said Shemp had this look about him that, he was a nice enough fellow, but he had a look of a bit of a toughness about him that you could only sort of go so far with him. And yes, he did look like and did often sort of stand up for himself. Curly is always known as the man-child. You always sort of really feel sorry for him in a lot of respects. But Shemp had that different look. And as I said, like he was a huge boxing fan. He just loved it,
Well, I remember one of the interesting things is there was like a publicity stunt type thing where he was like the ugliest man in Hollywood.
Yeah. And that was his management's and along with him. He played along with that routine. And that was just before the release of the movie with John Wayne. And a lot of the posters that came out they would say Pittsburgh, starring John Wayne, Randolph Scott, Marlene Dietrich, and featuring the ugliest man in Hollywood, Shemp Howard. And, it worked.
Yeah.
The movie did good box office, and Shemp was good in it. You got to picture someone, he's 5'5", 5'6", about that, pretty short, and there he is on the screen with both the Duke and Randolph Scott, and they're 6'4", 6'5". Mm-hmm. And even though he's like that foot shorter, he's still big on the screen. He manages to fill the space and doesn't look like a munchkin. Let's put it that way. And he can sort of stand his own, and that's what I think another thing I like about him. You could have a leading man who's a lot taller, but if Shemp's on the screen or on the stage, he's big and bold. He's there.
Yeah. Let's see. My mother asks, what was he like in personality behind the character? Like, what was the difference? Is there a difference between the character? I mean, there obviously was, because he's very quick on his feet, like literally and also figuratively.
Yeah.
But
one thing he loved to do was entertain, and he was like when he was away from the screen or the stage, it was all about family. That was it. It was his wife and his son, and later, of course, for a little while he was alive, his grandkids. But when he was out, one story I can tell you, which is in the book, is way back when. It was a restaurant he used to go to, and he'd be sitting around entertaining, telling jokes and stories to his friends. And apparently Mickey Rooney would come in long before that and say, look, as soon as Shemp Howard comes in today, let me know what table he's at. I want the table closest so I can hear the jokes. And apparently Mickey Rooney would sit there with his friends, howling with laughter, just listening sort of to what Shemp was saying. He was that popular. And Mickey Rooney actually had appeared way back with the original Stooges on stage many, many years. So he was aware of them. But Shemp had that reputation. He was extremely entertaining. But he was a real family man, and they used to hold these incredible parties every weekend at his house. His wife was a great cook and a great hostess, and he would be there entertaining people. John Wayne would wander in and people like that. And they'd all be shooting the breeze, and Shemp was a self-taught pianist, and he could, rattle off a few songs. And it must have been fun. It must have been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And Bob Hope used to drive him to the studios, too, because Shemp didn't drive.
yeah, because he said he got he didn't get a DUI. That didn't really. He got he was drunk or something like that. He was a teenager and he got in an accident.
Yeah.
And he just was like, I'm not gonna get my license. I'm not gonna do this anymore. I didn't have a lot of details and the stuff. There's various different stories about when that happened and when it didn't. It's hard to really pin it down. But neither he nor his wife drove, so people drove him around all over the place. Of course, coming from Brooklyn, that's not really like.
Yeah, I
New Yorkers who don't drive. Oh, I've never heard of that.
I don't think I'd want to drive either. But it must have been kind of cool for the grandkids at their age. They look up outside the window and there's Bob Hope out there, ready to drive, or maybe John Wayne or something like that. And so geez, Granddaddy's a really famous man.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. I don't think I'm ever going to learn everything about him, but I hope now that when I watch things that he's in, and as a Stooge and as a non-Stooge, that I can get even more out of it. So, and we need a lot of laughs these days, don't you think?
Absolutely,
really?
Absolutely.
But and I hate to depart so early, but I have to head off because I think it's snowing out there, and that might mean shovel time for me. So.
Oh, I know all about that.
Well, do you have any social media you want to put out there, places where folks can follow you and find out what's going on?
Well, I don't have a website page. I did at one point have my own page. It was on Google, and they got rid of their social media part of Google. Mm-hmm. I'm on Facebook, And I guess the only thing I would say to people is I spell my name the British way, Geoff.
Right.
Some people, when I go across the border, they call me Geoff, but that's fine. They can find me on that. I'm planning in this, well, actually this month and for the next few months to sort of update a lot more as to where we're at and when I think this might be coming out. My goal, and I hope the publishers too, is that we can get this on the road on the shelves maybe by say the autumn. I hope that'd be great. So
Excellent.
something to look forward for Christmas. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go.
How's that for a cheap plug? Am I allowed to do that?
Nope, that's what we're all about here is cheap
No,
plugs.
that's good. Cheap plugs. Excellent. I love that.
Well,
So I
go ahead.
thank you for having me. It's been great. It sounds like a fun show.
Yeah, I appreciate you calling in. It was great talking to you, and I've learned a lot about Shemp Howard that I did not know.
Oh, well, good. I got lots more, so when the book comes out, I'll send you a copy.
Oh, absolutely. Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thanks for...
Thanks very much for having me, and have fun with the rest of your show. And I'm not going to argue with anyone about science fiction movies because I know you have an expert there in the booth right now. So.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, and have fun shoveling.
Oh, thanks very much. Bye for now.
Bye.
Right.
All right, Jeff Dale working on the book about Shemp Howard.
Also for the record, the off-the-air conversation, for those on the internet, he does like Marvel films.
Oh, okay.
He does like Marvel films. So, if that affects your buying decisions in any way, shape, or form, the Marvel, Robble, I don't know where I'm going. The Marvel Mob? The Marvel Mob.
Marvel Mob. There you go. Marvelers.
You guys can get together with the Scrooge crew.
The marvelous
Stooge crew.
Stooge crew and the marvelous Marvel
I'm still
Mob.
on Christmas time. I still have one more Christmas celebration. It's messing with my head.
Okay.
So sorry.
That's a show title.
I had the show title just Stooge Heads, but I think Stooge crew and the marvelous Marvel Mob it would be a much better if I can write all that down without getting a bunch of dead air. Okay. Hey,
Yeah.
it's done. All right. Hey,
Okay.
we're here.
Yeah,
Are we
makes for
ready for
great
some news
audio.
stories?
I'm ready for some news stories, Don.
Let's get Patrick. Are you pumped for some news stories?
Patrick.
Yeah.
All right. Look at Patrick. He's ready. That is it. Patrick's got his ready face.
I was
on.
about to be like, what rhymes? Is Patrick packing for a news story? I'm like, where are you going, Adrian? Down, girl. Jeez.
All right. A man stole a pickup truck with a sleeping passenger and a goat inside it, and drove it all the way from Missouri to Oklahoma before releasing the terrified victim and animal and eventually being arrested, authorities say. According to an arrest report, 2 men in the truck parked outside an adult video store in Carthage, Missouri, early Wednesday morning. The driver went inside the store and the passenger fell asleep. When the passenger awoke, a masked man was driving the truck and pointing a gun at his head, Tulsa TV station KOTV reported. The carjacking suspect, 40-year-old Brandon Kirby, drove from Missouri through Kansas. During the 130-mile ordeal, Kirby took methamphetamine, pistol whipped the victim, and continually threatened him, according to the arrest report. He was eventually arrested in Sand Springs, Oklahoma, after he let the passenger and the goat out of the truck, and the victim called 911. I'm assuming the passenger called 911, not the goat.
Yeah, I was confused there. I'm like, wait, they keep saying the passenger, the goat?
I think this
The
man
goat?
actually saved something very bad from happening.
Okay.
2 men in a truck with a goat, and the driver went into an adult video store.
I know. I was like, where are you going with this?
Where does the goat come into
Are we
play?
going to get pulled off the air?
We very well might.
When the goat starts
This will
screaming
be-
is when it happens.
This
Yep,
will
I should have
be-
brought my screaming goat.
I know, right? I was watching the videos of when we had that on the
There
show. That
is
was great.
a small insect in here.
It's okay. It's not a goat, so we're good. Yep. You all right?
It keeps trying to fly to my face.
It's okay. It's okay. It's a studio insect. We're good.
Studio.
Yes, I think I don't know. I think this man might be kind of a hero to this goat at the very least.
Yeah. I mean, I have so many unanswered questions.
Yeah, and that's the bad thing is there's so many questions that we probably can't answer on the air.
Doesn't it feel feel a bit like a Coen Brothers movie? Like just like a slice out of the middle of a Coen Brothers movie?
It does. It definitely
Like,
does. Yeah.
Guy wakes up. He went to park at a porn star
At a porn star's house.
Mark a porn star.
With the goat.
Maybe these are ideas for the crime. Maybe a crime was going to happen. Another crime was averted.
Yes, yeah. They stole the truck, but he saved the goat, and that's really what's important. I think,
like, maybe they're all criminals. Maybe it's in a goat criminal. I mean, if we're going full Coen Brothers, that's probably the case. They're probably all bad people in some way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's nothing good that's going to come out of two men with a goat in a truck.
Way.
Yeah, there's nothing good that's going to come out of that.
In Kansas, right?
Right. It started out in Missouri, I think.
Sorry, this fly is just—it's going.
Yeah,
the
the adult video store was in Carthage, Missouri.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, there
nothing
was
good
definitely
happens in that
something.
part of Missouri.
Yeah, nothing good. Nothing good happens in.
I mean,
Missouri.
there's a reason why I've noticed a lot of the crime dramas I've watched recently in the last year
involve a goat
were
and two
set
men in a truck.
in like Missouri.
They should be.
I mean, it's just like, what says Midwestern up to no good? Nothing good gonna happen here, Missouri.
Right.
Which
right.
I have unexamined feelings about that, but I'm
It's
it checks out.
It's synonymous with misery. So what do you expect?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
it's just in there.
They
It's
would
in
they
the
would
goo.
they would have put him in Arkansas, but the Clintons would have killed him.
He didn't want to get political, but Don,
That wasn't political. That was factual.
where's Jesse
That
when
might
we
have
need
been
him
political.
to connect the dots for the conspiracy
Right.
theories?
Exactly. This has something to do with the
ask the
Colorado
questions.
drones, probably.
Nobody's been asking.
Yeah. Oh, let's see what we got here. We have a tortoise. From a goat to a tortoise. English fire authorities rescued a middle-aged tortoise on Christmas after it allegedly set its house on fire.
The tortoise set its house
set
on
it
Hold on, the tortoise set it on fire.
very slowly. Very slow. It was a slow burn. Firefighters were called to a home in Great Dunmow, a town about 45 miles northeast of London, after a neighbor heard the smoke alarm going off, the Essex Fire Service said in an incident report. When authorities arrived at the scene, the house was filled with smoke and there was a fire in one of the rooms. The fire started. You all right, Andrew?
It just keeps flying toward my head. I think it's because I put on Apple body spray. So
That
it probably
could,
thinks
yeah, it's a
I'm
gnat. Yeah, it's a
I'm
gnat
a
going
jar
after.
of rotting apples or something. And it's flying its way here.
The fire started after the tortoise knocked a heat lamp onto its bedding, which which then caught alight. Gary Wayne, watch manager of the Great Dunmow Fire Station. The Great Dunmow Fire Station.
Dunmow.
That sounds, yeah. Said, this tortoise has had a very lucky Christmas day. He is 45 years young and will now hopefully continue to live a long and happy life thanks to working smoke alarms.
A long and happy life?
Yes.
I'm going to say it sounds like an inside job.
Yeah, I don't think. He
Happy,
was
I think
not a
happy
happy tortoise.
Question mark?
He's trying to burn himself. He was trying to
He's like,
self-immolate.
I can't roll over on my back.
Yeah, it was in
can't-
protest. It was
I
in
can't
protest.
reach into my limbs,
Yeah, it was.
but I can knock over this heat lamp.
Yeah, the tortoise was a Buddhist, and it was in protest.
It was, yeah. Where was it again? It was in Dunmow.
Great
Great.
Dunmow, England.
England. Oh,
yes.
it's an English
Great
tortoise.
Dunmow.
It's an English tortoise. I see.
Yes.
I see. He's probably
Hence-
been watching too many
hence
Swedish
the depression.
movies.
A man who was live streaming while driving over 100 miles per hour crashed his car in Connecticut, according to the state police. Connecticut State Police posted the driver's video. The police posted the video of the crash on Monday. Kenneth Hoffler, 23 of Middletown, was using his phone to record himself driving over the Gold Star Memorial Bridge Saturday morning, officials said. He was reportedly driving with a suspended license. A trooper followed Hoffler as he sped onto an exit where he drove through a guardrail and rolled over. Hoffler's video shows him filming the road ahead of him and his speedometer before losing control on the off-ramp and dropping his phone.
Should have chosen the OnStar Bridge instead of the Gold Star Bridge.
Right.
He's on the off ramp at 100 miles per hour. What is this? Was he like? Okay, and I'm just picturing somebody who's videotaping it. Like the car is like a Honda Civic or something.
Right.
Really built for those kind of maneuvers. I'm assuming. But you know what I think this proves? Middletown, great place, full of great people.
Yeah, no matter where you are,
smart,
no matter what state you're in, Middletown is
great,
is
smart
the place
people.
to be.
No matter what state we're in, Middletown.
Our discussion of Missouri crime dramas. We just had a comment that the Ozarks are pretty cool in Missouri. Yes, so is the movie or the TV series. Again,
crime.
Back to crime dramas. Yes,
crime.
Absolutely.
That's
crime
all I'm saying.
In Missouri.
I think there's a reason behind it.
Absolutely, there has to be. There's
you think of places like, obviously New York and LA and Detroit and Baltimore, or, like big cities with big city problems. Nobody
film
thinks
the
about
crime
Missouri.
dramas in Missouri.
But that's actually the secret hotspot. That's the way. That's the place where crime doesn't want you to be looking. Missouri, where crime doesn't want you to look.
Yeah, what happens in crime stays in Missouri.
Whatever crimes happen in Missouri, go across the border to Kansas. Is Kansas across the border? See, that's the secret. Missouri is like the man that you can't pick out of a lineup. It's like the state that has that sort of kind of hard to sit in your memory face.
We're almost out of time, but
so
I
We're
do.
also almost out of town.
And almost out of talent.
Yep.
And
you can tell.
I have an Ohio story that I want to cover.
Okay.
An Ohio sheriff was shooting video of New Year's Eve celebration gunfire when a bullet hit his cruiser, struck him in the chest, and bounced off his bulletproof vest. It's unclear where the round came from that struck Allen County Sheriff Matt Treglia and narrowly missed his face and one of his commanders, Major Todd Mueller, who was sitting in the driver's seat. The Lima News reported Thursday. Treglia wasn't hurt. Treglia released a 30-second video in which multiple gunshots are heard, followed by the sound of a bullet striking the cruiser. What the bleep was that? Treglia is heard saying, according to the paper, that was a bleeping round or something, Mueller responds. It just hit me, dude, the sheriff says. It just hit me, dude, is a great way to end this show.
Also, Jay Triplett would like to point out that Missouri's motto is the show me state, which sounds like a mob threat.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say, show me.
Show me.
Show me.
Yeah. That
It's
is
all
true.
there.
That is true. Missouri,
It's all there.
Missouri is the new mafia state.
And frankly, I'm surprised that story did not take place in Middletown with the sheriff.
That's true.
We're going to sit around and supervise for safety, shooting guns up in the air. Also for safety, no reason. Actually, just no reason. We're going to wear bulletproof vests.
Right.
Because this is perfectly safe.
It's celebratory gunfire. I would say wear a bulletproof vest.
We should get the baby in here doing it. We should get the dog in here doing it. Everybody should be firing off rounds for New Year's. Come on down. Let's videotape it. Let's get the body cams going, the car cams going.
Drinking rounds and firing rounds.
Yeah, get some GoPros, maybe on the gun, have it shoot up in the air. That's great.
It just hit me, dude.
Get that goat pro from the back of the truck.
Pro. Yep, get the Goat Pro. That is what they were planning on filming.
What about the Gateway Arch, says
when
Susie
they got
Williams?
done with the
I have
adult
one thing to
store.
say about the Gateway Arch. Money laundering. The biggest money laundering scheme in the entire state.
Sounds right to me. Yeah,
it seems like the best way to wash your money, with a pointless, giant statue that makes no sense.
It's just
gateway to what? Gateway to what? What's beyond that gate? Flat,
Show me.
Boring. Show me. Show me, Missouri.
Show me the money laundering.
On a note of statues that don't make sense, you talking about Bart?
Exactly. The big artistic or autistic, I don't know. Hey, our computer is yelling at us right now. We are over our time.
Okay.
Patrick is going to fire me if we don't get off the air.
Don't do it, Patrick. Do it.
Patrick, I finally give you your own camera so you can be part of this, and you're going to fire me for going over. Hey, we can't do this. This is the last time we can go over because starting next week, we're going to have a show following us. So I'm stretching it. I'm making that computer sweat that we're not going to get our break in time.
Computer better not sweat or it'll mess up.
It's yelling about the top of the hour ID break rather than ending your show.
Oh, just the ID break?
Oh,
yeah.
Hey, you're listening to WWSU 106.9 FM. Dayton's right choice. Fairborn, Dayton.
Now you
Dayton's
got it.
right choice. All right, there. Now the computer still doesn't care. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Tune in next week. We're going to do more stuff and talk about more things or something. All right. Have a good night. Thanks for coming in, Adrian.
Thank you.
Patrick, as always, it's a pleasure. Hit it. Thanks for listening to the Life Radio Show podcast. Check it out wherever you listen to podcasts. Remember, if you want to listen live, we are on Tuesdays from 7 to 9 p.m. on WWSU 106.9 FM. You can also stream the show live at WWSU1069.org, and we go Facebook Live at the Life Radio Show's Facebook page. If you have suggestions or comments, feel free to email thelife1069@gmail.com.
Presence overwhelms me. The brutal presence overwhelms me.
Nothing good gonna happen here.